Okay. Right, good morning everybody. It's a great opportunity for me to be here to tell you about our product Nasaleze. Really our claim to fame is also one of our biggest challenges because we are the world's first powdered nasal spray for dealing with allergies. Now, the data shows that about 30% of the people in the United Kingdom actually suffer from some sort of pollen allergy, and I'm sure there's some of you in the audience here today that suffer from allergies when the season comes round. And if you do so, I'm sure you readily reach for your antihistamines. Probably some of you take the eye drops, and some of you will also take the liquid nasal sprays. But not many of you will probably know that there is an alternative in this powdered nasal spray that we have. Now, the idea for this powdered nasal spray all came about through a guy who lives on the Isle of Man, and this is a picture of Mike James, and Mike is actually in the audience today. And Mike came up with this idea back in the 90s, and how it came about, he was making a powdered, a gel-filled cosmetic face mask it was for the Body Shop, and one of the ingredients that was in this face mask is part of the formulation of Nasaleze today. Now, during the manufacturing process, this powder created a lot of dust in the factory, and he thought it strange that nobody ever sneezed. Now, at the same time, he had a son who was suffering very badly with pollen allergy, and he tried everything on him and nothing seemed to work. So one night, he decided to bring some of this powder home from the factory. He just put a bit of the powder onto the back of his hand, and he got his son to sniff it. And you know, it was just like turning a light off. It stopped his son from sneezing immediately. So he realised he'd made some sort of discovery, but then the case was to try and make it into a product that was going to be marketable. One of the first things he had to do was to come up with a device to administer the powder into the nose, and that was something that Mike, as an inventor, was able to do. And then, of course, the other big hurdle was regulatory, and that was a long story, and I don't have time to go into this today. But eventually, in 2002, we got registration as a Class 1 medical device, and that was very fortunate to us because that EU regulation opened the whole of the European market up for us as a company, and that got us started. So, we are a unique concept. There's nobody else working in this barrier method of a powder in the nasal tract for dealing with allergic rhinitis, because as I said earlier, every other nasal spray is a liquid and we're all used to taking them. But we realised that the efficacy of our product Nasaleze was similar to many of the over-the-counter products that are available throughout the world today. But our product, it was also suitable for children and for pregnant ladies, and more importantly, there was no side effects with Nasaleze. But with any new idea, you have to prove that it's going to work, and we really faced an uphill struggle because doctors and sufferers were all used to the traditional methods of treatment. So we somehow had to get this information through to the key opinion leaders, the people that worked in the allergy field, to show them that there was a new alternative. So we as a company needed proof. Now, I was very lucky back in around about 2005 to make the acquaintance of Professor Jean Emblin. Now, Professor Emblin runs the National Pollen and Aerobiology Research Unit at Worcester University. Now, this is the unit that supplies all the pollen forecasts to the BBC during the allergy season. And Professor Emblin is also the leading key opinion leader on airborne allergies in the UK. So she expressed a serious interest in Nasaleze. She looked at it, understood it, and agreed to do the first pilot clinical trial. And she went on to actually do 3 trials on our product, 2 on pollen, and also another one on dust mite allergy. And these trials were all published in peer-reviewed journals, and they were all submitted at various congresses around the world, and that got us started. So as a company, we've now actually accumulated over 16 clinical trials which have been done in different centres, UK, USA and Russia. And our last trial was actually carried out by an Isle of Man-based clinical trial company that I was able to connect with via Courtney Heading about 12 months ago. This was a study done in the Ukraine to full FDA standards, 108 patients, a double-blind placebo-controlled trial. The lead author was a Professor Aberg from the Gothenburg Hospital in Sweden, and one of the things that he said is that our product was comparable to a steroid in certain patients on this study, and this was significant data for us. We're also available on the UK drug tariff as a reimbursed product, and we now have thousands of doctors recommending the product around the world, and more importantly giving relief for the people who suffer from allergies. This clinical trial data enabled us as a company to move from we originally started dealing with just natural health food department stores into the pharmacy chain. So we're now sold as an OTC product through various pharmacies around the world. And some of our distributors now operate a doctor model because there is the clinical trial data. They can then educate the doctors, and the doctors in turn can prescribe the product to their patients. We actually do very well in Russia. We have a second product for cold prevention which we launched in Russia in 2008, and we're selling this product in the main cities, and I saw some recent data that came in last week that shows our sellout figures are over 80% up on the previous year. We have a version for horses which came about because horses, believe it or not, a lot of them now live in stables and never go into fields like they used to do. And they are getting some problem with allergies, and we have a version for horses we're selling in the USA and Germany. We're also very proud as a company to say that we've been approached by Boots, and we've concluded a contract with them to supply Nasaleze under a Boots private label throughout all of their stores in 2014. And as a company, we now have patents in the USA and the European Union. We have patents on the device for delivering the product. I should actually just say that I'll tell you a bit more about the product. This product is delivered via a bottle, a dropper bottle, and we sometimes say it's the only white powder that you can legally sniff into your nose. This powder very basically goes into a gel when it goes into the nasal tract. And this gel is very much like your body's own mucosa. It's really acting as a filter. It's stopping the pollen from getting into the body and giving out the allergic reaction. It was a very simple idea that Mike James came up with, but sometimes the simple ideas are sometimes the best, and it's proved to be a very effective product.
Another minute.
Another minute. Okay, so this strong clinical data has brought us some high quality partners. We're dealing with some medium-sized pharma companies around the world, and these are just some of the companies that we operate in. We have distribution contracts in over 100 markets. So next step as a company, we obviously want to grow our existing sales in our current markets. We are continuing our research. We have a study going on at the University of Chicago at the moment with one of the top American key opinion leaders on pollen allergy, and we're also doing some research with our French partner in Bulgaria at the moment. We're still trying to enter some new markets. Some of these new markets, that I know Jim mentioned China in his report, we have been working with the Chinese authorities for 3 years now. We had an email last week to say within 40 days we should have a decision, and we hope to be able to enter the Chinese market in 2014. We're also trying in Japan. I've been trying in Japan for 7 years, and we have an indication that there is a possibility they may consider us in the future. And of course, new product development. That is a very exciting possibility, and I want to just leave you with 2 thoughts on our product. We have noticed from consumers and customers that we deal with around the world that there is a demand for effective natural products that have good clinical science behind them, that are value for money, effective to use, and also have no side effects. And we believe that Nasaleze fits into that niche. And the other exciting opportunity for us, we know that this powder that I showed you acts as a great carrier for other substances, and the patents that we have for Nasaleze enables us to add natural substances and other drug substances to the product. The challenge with that is getting through the regulatory process, but we're up for a challenge, and we see that as a great future potential for the product in the future. Thank you for your time this morning.